Hi everyone, hope you're all having a good day. It's been a while since I did a book video because I was in a bit of a reading slump, but today I'm going to be covering the books I read in March and April and talk about the books I'm planning to read in May. As I say, I was coming out of a reading slump, so it's really not going to be that long a video at all because I only read 4 books I think in March and April, and there's about 3 to go in May's to be read list, so I'm not going to keep you forever. The first book I'm going to waffle to you about is Angelfall by Susan E. It seems like it was such a long time ago I read this book, and I think that's probably because I read this around about the middle of March. This was a book I actually picked up in December, I think, before the second book came out because it was 99p on Amazon, and I'd heard a lot of good things about it and thought for 99p I may as well give it a go. I really enjoyed this book. This was one of those where it was completely unpredictable, and when you got to the end of the book you look back on the start and think, wow, how did those characters get to this point? I never would have expected that. And the pacing was great. It didn't ever feel rushed and it didn't ever feel really slow, so overall I really enjoyed it. The two main characters, Pen and Raph, were both really interesting. They were completely different and they were basically thrown together, and they're supposed to be enemies, so it really created quite an interesting story between them because you weren't really sure what was going to happen. When I finish a book that's in a series, I really want the book to make me want to pick up the next one right away, as if there's no other book in the world worth reading, but I didn't quite feel that Angelfall did that to me. But despite that, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Next up is The Guard by Kiera, and this is a novella for the Selection series. The Guard follows the story of Aspen, and it doesn't really follow the story, it follows his perspective throughout a couple of incidents which take place in the second book in the series called The Elite. Can't remember exactly how many pages this is, but it's definitely less than 100, and this had a little snippet at the start of the next book in it, which has got me really excited, but I don't think it comes out in the UK until June, which is kind of annoying because I really thought it came out in May and it doesn't come out of here till June. It didn't really add anything massive to the series, but if you're a big fan of the Selection or you really like Aspen, then it's just a nice read. It's just something nice to have, a little extra thing to kind of tide us over until the one comes out, when we finally find out whose side she takes, and I'm totally team Aspen and I really hope it's him. As I say, it didn't really add anything, but it was a good read and I gave it a 3 out of 5. As I say, I was in a reading slump, so I thought I'd pick up something a bit different, but not too different to the kind of things I like, and I was looking on Amazon one evening in the free section and came across EMBRYO by J.A. Schneider, which is a medical thriller. I've never read anything called a medical thriller before, but the description sounded too exciting to pass up. As it's a medical thriller, you might expect that there's quite a lot of medical terminology used in it. I wouldn't say there was a huge amount, and it's introduced in quite a clever way so that you're not overwhelmed by it and you kind of learn what it means, which makes it so much easier to read. I read this over the space of 2 nights, in probably about 3 or 4 hours. I just couldn't put it down. It was really gripping, and I would definitely give the next one a read. I can't remember what that's called now, but I would really recommend this. And I mean, you can always download a sample, and if you don't like it you don't have to read it, but I downloaded the sample and I was hooked. I gave this a 5 out of 5. It was that good. I'm very guilty of just reading dystopian books for the most part, and there are so many amazing books out there that it seems kind of criminal to not at least explore other genres and see whether you like them or not. So this was another free one I picked up. I don't think it's free anymore. I think it's gone up to 77p or something like that when I looked yesterday. But this was in the top 100 free books in some section. I can't remember whether it was overall or romance. And that's Come Away With Me by Kristen Proby. Yeah, that's right. I'm not normally a big fan of romance, but I do find that they're normally quite easy reads and I can get through them quickly. I got through this in about 4 or 5 hours, which suggests to me that it really got me hooked and I couldn't put it down, which is true. I did take a couple of issues with the plot, and that's that it was quite predictable, but then again, it's a romance, and are they really supposed to be completely unpredictable? I mean, romance kind of suggests 2 people fall in love. That's not really unpredictable if that's what you're reading, is it? This was just kind of, it seemed a little bit too predictable and too unrealistic, in that it seems like the kind of fantasy you might have when you're like 14 or 15 and think, oh my god, wouldn't it be amazing if I met this, singer from my favourite band and we fell in love and blah blah blah. It seemed a little bit like that to me, but it was a really good easy read and it helped pull me out of my reading slump. There were sex scenes in the book, and I don't take issue with that because that happens especially in romance books, but at some points it was happening on pretty much every single page. It's like get in a limo, have sex, sit on a balcony, have sex, wear a shirt, have sex. Yeah, exactly. It got a bit boring, to be honest. There was quite a bit of swearing in this, and again, I don't really take issue with swearing because it happens in real life, but it just didn't seem natural. Every other word at some point seemed to be swear words, and that kind of annoyed me because I don't know. I think there are some characters where it seems right for them to swear every other word. You know the kind of mean. But the main character in this, Luke, he came across as quite gentle in parts, and it just seemed wrong that he was swearing at every other word. I might be wrong, but that annoyed me a little bit. I was thinking about what rating to give this, and it took me a while. I was thinking maybe 3 stars, but then it's difficult because I'm judging something against things I normally read, which are more complex, and I'd be annoyed if most of the other books I read were this predictable. So I'm kind of going to have to give it a 2.5 stars. But it was a nice easy romance read, and if you're into that you might like it. I recommend you at least give it a go. But I will be honest, I almost put it down when one of the lines in the first few pages described the main character's ass as Kardashian-esque. Just think about that for a minute. That should never be a word. Please, nobody ever use that word again. That brings to a close the books I read in March and April. I told you it really wasn't that many at all. So next I'm going to move on to what I'm going to be reading in May. First of all is this beast, and that's George R.R. Martin's A Clash of Kings, which is the second book in the Game of Thrones series. I have already started reading this, but I mean, there's no way I'm going to finish this in April now. Not a chance. It's taken me about a week to get that far. I found the prologue for this incredibly hard going, and my fiance has read this book already and he did say just as much. I almost put it down, it was just so dull. After I fought on through the prologue, which was a little bit like swimming through treacle, it did get much better and I'm quite hooked now, though it has still taken me a week to read that far. Purely because I think the chapters are so big and I like to finish a chapter before I go to bed or anything, so the chapters have been shorter. I imagine I might have got a bit further through by now. I really struggle with the chapters involving Davos. I don't know why, I just find them quite boring. I have watched season 2 and I really can't remember what happens in it, to be honest. I'm not sure why. As I'm reading bits I'm thinking, oh yeah, I remember that happening, but it's quite clear how much of a difference there is between the books and the TV series. I think I kind of prefer the books, to be honest, but I think the TV series is kind of like any series or film they make from a book. For the most part you have to forget about the book when you're watching it because there's so many things they can't possibly fit in or change for some inexplicable reason. I'm quite enjoying this. I'm really enjoying the scenes, especially in following the point of view of Daenerys and Tyrion. Tyrion is definitely my favourite character, though now I've said that I'm quite sure George R.R. Martin's ears are burning somewhere and he's just killed him off. I would recommend it. I think the books are much better than the TV series. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this and I'm hoping I'm going to finish this during May. I imagine I should. Next book is one I have actually been reading since about March and I still haven't finished it off. It's quite bad. That's Raven's Gate by Anthony Horowitz. I'm really not that far from finishing it, but it's just not engaging me at all. The first half I found very slow and it did get better, but once I start reading it I'm okay, I'm kind of hooked, but once I put it down I don't feel I need to pick it up again, and I probably haven't picked this up in about 2 weeks now and it's annoying me because it's very nearly finished, so I'm going to have to try and force myself to read that at some point. The final book I'm going to waffle to you about is Shania Twain's From This Moment On. I'm a massive Shania Twain fan. I was kind of brought up listening to her music, and when I discovered she had an autobiography I had to pick it up. I say pick it up, what I had to do actually is order it from the US, which took about 3 weeks. Very slow. I read the first chapter of this book and I don't really know that you can judge an autobiography on the first chapter, but I'm not sure that it's going to be the best autobiography I've ever read, but I'm hoping it's going to get more engaging. As I've got 3 books on the go at the moment and Game of Thrones is a monster, I will probably read this towards the end of the month now. But I'm looking forward to reading about it and finding out more about her. I'm sorry, I lied to you. I just realised that I said that was the last book I was going to waffle to you about, but I realise now that's a complete lie. I'm going to Spain next week, and of course I need an ebook for the flight, otherwise I'll spend the whole flight freaking out thinking it's going to turn into another episode of Air Crash Investigation, because that's what I do on planes. I've watched too many episodes of that to keep my cool on a plane. I'm going to read Philippa Gregory's The Red Queen, because Game of Thrones has kind of got me in that mood, and that is not going to fit in my hand luggage with all my other stuff I've got in there, so that's what I've got on my Kindle, so I'm going to read that. I read the first book, The White Queen, last year, which I got into after watching the TV series. I didn't realise it was based on a book for a couple of episodes, and then I noticed in the credits. It was really enjoyable. It's kind of very similar to the Game of Thrones series, but it's all told from one person's perspective, and I think it's based on a little bit more fact than Game of Thrones. The Red Queen also was one of my books. I think it was the historical fiction choice for my 2014 genre challenge, which I will link to in the description below. It's only the end of April, it's definitely not too late to start the genre challenge, so have a look and give it a go. I mean it now when I say that that is all of the books I'm going to waffle to you about in this video. Let me know what you're reading in the comments below, or if you've got any suggestions or what you thought of any of these books. That's me all wrapped up. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and don't forget to visit my blog www.eatreadglam.com, which is a mixture of books, lifestyle, photography, cats, and something else, food, yes, food of course, and some beauty waffling stuff. I'm really not very good at this, am I? So yeah, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye.